The anti-China alliance really reining in, you know? We're really consolidating. Donald Trump went and met President Modi. Did you guys see this? He went with Elon Musk because Elon Musk is the president. And was it the first question asked by an Indian reporter was something like, how do you feel about the overwhelming speed, popularity, and effectiveness of Donald Trump's, new administration or something like that? Did you guys see that?
From Michael Kugelman, he's director of the South Asia Institute at Wilson Center. He's joining us.
Hard tariff, and indeed we do now know that Trump has announced reciprocal tariffs across the board. But by across the board, I mean with countries around the world. We don't yet exactly know just yet how this will impact India. But I do think the fact that New Delhi has been so clear about its willingness to make concessions, and let's be very clear. I mean, India did reduce a series of tariffs earlier.
Here, was this it?
I was curious. How much more confident are you with President Trump leading this country that there will be peace through strength and you will have a successful partnership with the United
No, this isn't it. This is an English-speaking reporter. Well, both of them spoke English, but you know what I mean. This is the only kind of question that you're allowed to ask now in any kind of like Trump, because you will literally be kicked from the newsroom if you ask any real questions.
States versus with Biden's incompetence and weakness over the last 4 years.
Even Trump is like, this is a little embarrassing. Literally, that's how much of a ass-kissing question this is. Where even Trump is like, okay, come on.
That's your question, but I'll answer it. I agree with you. Gross incompetence. We're going to have a fantastic relationship, and it has been, but the whole world's been set back over the last 4 years by the weakness of the United States, the weak leadership of the United States. But I think we've taken care of it in just 3 weeks. It seems to me that even some of the media that we wouldn't prefer has been writing that this is a much different country right now, that the world has a light over it, not only our country, but the whole world. The Prime Minister told me that before, too, even over India. The world has a light. They need the United States to be strong and powerful, but good. And
that's great, man. There was another dick-sucking question. They're all dick-sucking.
Earlier this month, when it announced its new budget, it made that quite clear. And so I think that's something that will appease Trump and his administration.
It's going to be interesting to see.
I mean, the funny thing is that Modi is actually rapidly losing popularity. Remember how in the last election Modi got trounced? Like, people were expecting Modi's party to do really well in the parliamentary elections, and he just got, like, absolutely ridden into the ground. And Modi is, I mean, people say this a lot about a lot of people, but Modi basically is India's Donald Trump, right? Like, he is a boorish, like, buffoonish, posturing, militant nationalist who rides off xenophobia to try to ignite the public. But much is the case with Trump, he can't actually get that much done because there's just a limit to how much you can really do, Like, for India, the big two are Pakistan and China, right? And you're not going to war with China because that's stupid. But also, you can't really go to war with Pakistan because that's a U.S. ally. It'd be bad for a variety of reasons. They've got nukes. You don't want that either. So, yeah, it's just a lot of posturing with nothing, It's just not as easy to be ruthlessly expansionist. The only country doing it right now is Russia, because Ukraine didn't have nukes, and that's pretty much what you get. I can get more tidbits from this. Anyway, how are the America First people feeling about this? India receiving billions of U.S. weapons, which means, of course, by the way, which means billions being funneled into military contracts directed at private companies that actually fulfill these orders. Remember, whenever you see anything saying America to spend blank on military, the money doesn't disappear into nowhere. It goes directly to Lockheed or whatever. How are we feeling about the America First bit? I mean, with India too. Like, India is a very powerful country, and it's a powerful country that people are very racist against. This is how the defense industry is feeling. The other day, Donald Trump said that he, China, and Russia could all like cut defense spending in half, but I don't think you should put much weight in that because he just says stuff. That is not true. That will not happen. That will literally, this was like Biden saying he's going to end cancer. You shouldn't put any, he just said that. It didn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. Defense stocks dropped sharply Thursday afternoon after Trump suggested the U.S. could massively cut defense spending. Yeah, no, it's not. It's absolutely not happening. Defense stocks fell, not by much though. General Dynamics, Lockheed, Northrop Grumman. It's just market manipulation to buy the dip. No, I genuinely just think it's his brain is broken. Those are a lot considering these stocks never dip. Well, keep in mind that the wealth of these companies isn't necessarily in their like share evaluation, but in the actual like contracts they hold. But yeah, the wokest president, the most anti-military president, the most peaceful president of all time. Let me get that clip. He's so funny.
You know, I've had a good relationship with President Putin. I've had a good relationship with President Xi. It's about people. And I think when things straighten out, which I hope will be in the not too distant future,
if he actually has military spending, I don't know what to say, man. I promise you it's not going to. As surely as the sun will rise tomorrow, it is not going to happen. 0% chance. We know who actually runs the country, okay? It will not happen. The reason he said this, I think, is probably because there are some legitimate, like, more libertarian-leaning budget hawks in his orbit who have talked about the Pentagon as a viable target for cutting spending. But it's not, like, this is just one of those lines you can't cross, you know?
Meeting I want to have first is a meeting with China and a meeting with Russia on slowing down, stopping, and reducing nuclear weapons in particular, and also on not having to spend the kind of money we're all spending on weapons, military weapons generally.
I think my question is, would you have those meetings separately with each of those leaders, or would you try to bring them all together?
Both. You start off separately, and that's what was happening. I was dealing with President Putin. We had really an understanding where we were going to denuclearize. What a beautiful term that is, right? Denuclearize. What a great thing if we could do that. And we were going to. He really liked the idea, and so did I. And we had then called China, and China was very open to it.
It is funny that he said it, though.
What other lines come out of that, and I think we are expecting some sort of press conference, a live event, maybe in about 45 minutes or something. We'll be bringing that to our viewers. But it's not just going to be about tariffs as well, isn't it? Because one of the, if I understand it correctly, India is one of the largest sources for illegal migration into the U.S. compared to Latin American countries, second only to Latin American countries. We have seen already, of course, a U.S. flight taking a shackled Indian.
Love our not president, by the way. This is a level of oligarch corruption that I think might be unmatched in the entire world. Can anybody else think of a country where you have an election and then the president is just a different guy who just does diplomatic missions, exactly what the president would do, where the president would sit? I can't think of it. Like, Russia is controlled by oligarchs, but Putin is the top oligarch. Narco states in South America, that might actually be like the closest comparison. Yeah. Where like nobody, but in countries like that, nobody even really pretends that the president is the president, you know? Like, it's insane. There's no benefit to this. Like, there's no strategic value to this. It's literally just Elon controls the government.
Seen already, of course, a U.S. flight taking shackled Indian migrants back to India. One would imagine that's going to be in the agenda as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think both leaders will want to maintain a positive.
Why is Elon bringing his kids everywhere? Because he's aware of the fact that he's like a disgusting autistic freak who looks weird, sounds weird, can't talk, can't do anything. So they're used as a PR shield. He never brings his children anywhere where they can interact with other children. And whenever he stands in front of a camera with his kid, they're like weird. They don't really seem to care about Elon. They don't look up at him for assurance or guidance the way that a kid normally would with their parent. They just kind of wander around like a feral child and say shit. Like, the last time they had him in the Oval Office, he whispered to Trump, like, "You're not the president, get out," or some shit like that. It's just weird, you know?
Positive tone in this meeting, so I don't think that they'll dwell on the issue of immigration, which is clearly a very delicate issue for India. But indeed, according to some estimates, there are more than 700,000 undocumented Indian immigrants in the U.S., the third largest group. And India has said it's willing to take some back, but
like, at least Trump had the good sense to not keep Barron around all the time with him in his first term. Did you guys ever see that video of Barron speaking when he was 12 years old or something, and he had a Slovenian accent because he never interacted with Trump? He only interacted with Melania. Really, really, really funny. None of these people actually like interact with their kids, you know?
It's unclear how many it's been willing to take back. And, as you noted, there was a plane load of just over 100 of them that returned to India last week. I do think that one of the goals of the Indian government in the days ahead, not necessarily at the summit today, is to try to reach an agreement with the U.S. as to how many of these undocumented immigrants India would actually be taking back, because we're talking about what could be a very large number. And this is something that will be very delicate for India to navigate in its diplomacy with the Trump administration.
At the same time, there's a certain amount of leverage that India has in this, doesn't it? Because if I understand it correctly, also, India supplies a great number of highly qualified migrants to the United States under, I believe it's the H-1B visa. There was a pushback, I think, from Trump's base over that, but Trump seems to be willing to keep that.
Right. I mean, it's unclear what's going to happen at this point, but indeed, both Trump and some of those close to him, including Elon Musk, have signaled their support for the H-1B visa program. But indeed, you do have some...
The Nazis, I feel like they disappointed the Nazis even faster this time. We're literally talking about like a militantly pro-Israel, pro-India, pro-H-1B, spend money, give money to India. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Also, giving money to India? India's, well, I can't say they're a wealthy country, but they have a lot of money. It's a big country,
Some influencers and others that are close to Donald Trump that have been very critical of it because, in their view, it takes jobs away from Americans. But this is something that's very important for India and for the U.S.-India relationship, because if there are curbs to this program, that would mean that the large number of Indian tech workers working in the U.S. would be cut back. And technology has actually been a big area of cooperation in U.S.-India relations in recent years. So I think that India has a very strong interest in ensuring that program, that visa program remains intact and in place.
Obviously, we've got this upcoming security meeting in Munich. We've got the statements coming out of NATO with regard to Ukraine. Now, of course, India's position with regard to Ukraine was a point of contention with the Biden administration. It said, if I understand it correctly, again, that Modi had refused to condemn Russia for its war in Ukraine. How is that going to play out with regard to the Trump administration and what we've seen over the last 24 hours or so?
Right. I mean, there's several areas of tension. There had been several areas of tension.
Trump does love authoritarian leaders. Look, honest to God, I'm happier with him being buddy-buddy with Modi than being buddy-buddy with Xi, because I want this to be the Chinese century and America is doomed to fail, and I would rather them bring down India than China. And I mean that sincerely. Like, I would rather China develop, like, because it seems like Modi and Trump are both destined for failure, as is Russia. They have no real civilization building plans in the long run. They strip power now. They rise up off a wave of, like, xenophobia and hatred. But unlike the Chinese Communist Party, which has actually done something for its people, they offer nothing, So eventually, when the bubble pops, they fade to dust, and the Chinese century continues, in
the Biden administration that are essentially going to melt away in the Trump administration, and the issue of the war in Ukraine.
Do you think it's probable the EU will divert to being buddies with China? Yes, I think that over time that seems more likely. That they would start to... I mean, look at what's happening with Canada right now. As tariffs ramp up with Canada, Canada's going to start to look elsewhere for their aluminum sales. At least to the EU. But, like, this is... America's, like, breaking every tie, every chain that made it strong.
Is one of them. It's quite notable that Trump and Modi actually share a very similar view on the war in Ukraine. They both refuse to criticize or condemn Russia or Putin for the war, and they've just said repeatedly that the war has to end. And indeed, Trump reportedly had a 90-minute phone call with Vladimir Putin yesterday, in which Trump indicated that this could be the beginnings of an effort to begin to wind down the war. And I suspect this is something that will come up in Trump's meeting with Modi, because Trump will know that Modi himself has called for an end to the war, and there had even been some discussions in recent years that perhaps India could be a mediator because of India's very close special relationship with the Russians and with the Russian government. So I think that this is one case where the U.S.-India relationship is going to be in a pretty good place, I think, in the Trump era, and I think one reason for that is that there will be some tension points that will disappear.
Do you think the threat of military might of the United States would keep weaker countries in line? I still think, in spite of everything, the Trump administration knows it can't really put boots in the ground. Look at what happened after Donald Trump said the U.S. would take over the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip is tiny. It's like it's less than the size of Los Angeles. Like, it's very small. But even the idea of putting boots in the ground there during a conflict, immediately was met with backlash from everyone, with his administrators trying to walk it back. I don't think America has any interest really in putting boots in the ground anywhere. What we could do is, you know, put our military contracts out to other people. What we're doing right now with India, you know, receiving billions in U.S. weapons. We can fund people, but I don't think like our military is going to get much involved. That's my thought, at least.
You can see walking
together to Pakistani separatists who've been working.
I think that's happened, and I think it's happened in a very short period of time. But I will tell you, we're going to have a fantastic relationship, and it'll make both countries much stronger. Yes, go ahead, please.
The U.S. military is a paper tiger. I don't think that's true, or at least I didn't up until now. The reason America didn't do well in Afghanistan and Iraq is because we didn't really have any real objectives there. Now, though, the main reason militaries perform well is because of logistics, and Hegseth was literally, on day one, when he was made head of the DoD, he was saying, like, no more logistics, no more bureaucracy, just good old man jogging around. He was basically doing, like, the Russia bit, you know? We're like, yeah, we don't need, you know, fancy-pantsy logistics. We just need, like, grit and macho. Wait, they're actually stupid? Yeah, but this behavior is literally directly what leads to a country being a paper tiger. It's what happened to Russia. You know, Russia's military would have been very, very powerful if it had been led by competent, non-corrupt officials. Like, the reason Russia's military sucked was because their logistics got hollowed out by a completely ineffective, you know, disinterested oligarch class. Like, the people were being appointed to positions of military prominence based on their loyalty to the regime, which is what's happening now as well. Like Soviet Union officials? Kind of, but Zhukov was his name, right? That guy was actually competent, and Stalin listened to him. That's the only reason the Soviets were able to push back the Nazis during World War II. The Soviets had one, well, they probably more than one, I'm simplifying, but they had one really good general, and Stalin actually listened to him. If Stalin had had Zhukov killed, which he probably would have if he was any other guy, things would have gone a lot worse. It really was just Zhukov. He was shockingly powerful. See, here we go. Sorry, I was looking for the tweet from Hegseth. Strength equals readiness. Kicked off the day with PT alongside the Warriors of 110 SFG. No bureaucracy. Just sharp minds, strong bodies, and a mission-first mindset. Like, dog, bureaucracy is what wins wars. That's literally, that's how we won World War II. The supply lines, not running fast. Can a man with this phenotype pilot a drone better?
Geeta Mohan from India Today, sir. I'll just take my colleague Lalit Jha's question forward because you can understand.
Okay, fine.
The question is about the fact that you've decided to extradite Tahawar Rana. Thank you so much. India has been waiting to have him back in India to bring him to justice. But there are many other elements in the United States of America, particularly Khalistani separatists who've been working against Indian interests. How is the United States of America going to cooperate on that front with India? There have been allegations that have been leveled against Indian agencies by the Biden administration.
They want us to assassinate more Sikh separatists or whatever.
Are you going to relook that with Tulsi Gabbard as DNI now?
Well, I don't think India had a very good relationship with the Biden administration. Biden, they wouldn't sell them oil and gas, which is rather hard to believe because, you know, it's a good thing to do. And a lot of things happened that weren't very appropriate, I thought, between India and the administration, the Biden administration. But as you said, we're giving a very violent man, it seems to me. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Prime Minister, thank you, Mr. President. Prime Minister, the U.S. is giving a lot of push to curb illegal immigration, and India has been cooperating on this issue. How does India see this issue in the larger context? Thank you.
I don't think this is a question that is about India only, but even globally you can talk about this issue. And we are of the opinion that anybody who enters another country...
Wow, you're boring. F you. Point taken. Trump would defend India if they killed someone on American soil? Oh, 100%, yeah. Our country is gutted, and we're a dog. We'd let anyone do anything. Trump would let America lick peanut butter off of Russia's boot soles for $1. It's like there's no national pride. Just got to pay the right price. $1.